right, welcome back to Agency Hacker. We have Jeremy Springer on the show. Not Jerry Springer, but Jeremy Springer on the show. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Now I must pause and throw a chair. Every time someone says anything about Jerry, I end up throwing a chair. I feel like I have to.
Well, I understand. If you were Bobby, if your name was Bobby Knight or something close, you'd want to do that too. But so tell us about you. Tell us about your agency, and then let's get into the mix because we got some pretty cool shit to talk about.
Cool. Thanks, man. So Jeremy Springer. My agency is Stone Amp SEO, and I'll touch on the name real quick because people are like, that's the dumbest name. And I'm like, yeah, I totally agree. So when I started my agency, I wanted something unique. And when I was a kid and I was thinking about being an adult, I was going to name my first son Stone Edward. Edward is my father's middle name, and I just thought Stone was a strong name. When I went to start the agency, I was just like, it's got to be Stone. And I'm like, well, it's got to be something else. And if you're in our world, AMP stands for Accelerated Mobile Pages, and SEO, search engine optimization. So I literally just went, hey, okay, we'll just put some services on here. Sure. And so there's Stone Amp SEO. I've trademarked it because I don't know why, protection. And you and I have talked about kind of trademarking and personalities, why you might want to do that in the past. But so we're an agency. We started in 2016. My experience is actually 20 years of IT, starting at the database layer and working my way up through the stack to C# development, of course, SQL to get into the database, HTML, JavaScript, blah, 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 blah. So about 7 different languages, all the way out of the stack into a management role of, I left corporate world managing 20 plus developers and jumped into digital marketing. And the whole reason why I did that was after that long grind, it was just, I knew I could help more people than just one company. And I was doing SEO on the side for little businesses that I was trying to create. And I was trying to figure out, how do I get more traffic? And just accidentally fell into SEO and loved it because it just kind of fit my personality. It was like this, I'm going against the algorithm, but I also get to be creative with content. And I just enjoyed it. It just felt like the perfect match. And I don't know about you, but I always struggled when I was a kid about, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I was like, I don't know. And because there just didn't really seem like anything that really matched me. Mm-hmm. And so I always kid around. I go, well, I didn't know what I wanted to be because SEO didn't exist when I was a kid. The internet didn't exist. So I'm aging myself, but the internet didn't exist when I was a kid. And so it was kind of like I was created for this to come. And so if I would just tell anyone, hey, if you're struggling with what it is that you want to be when you grow up, just hang around a little bit longer. The world changes in really crazy ways, and maybe it'll open itself up to you. But so back to our company. So we're based out of Kansas City. We're a very small group. There's 3 of us. I get the happiness of being business development as well as the mastermind behind the curtain. So I don't get to be the guy that says, never mind what's going on behind the curtains, because I'm that guy too. I have like I said, there's 3 of us. I am coaching up our employees to take on the responsibilities of SEO, content creation. So not only do I get to own the company, sell the services, put together the recipes and the formulas, but also train up employees to follow those to a T and help them understand why we're doing what we're doing and why it's important. And
so you gave a couple of carrots there. One, you're a company of 3. Mm-hmm. So you're not running, and the importance and the value of bringing you on to do an episode was you're not running a multi-million dollar agency at this point. Right?
Absolutely not.
And it's interesting and unique for me to bring somebody on who's still in that process. So you're 4 years old. Your company's 4 years old. Right. You're probably still going through the struggle, right? The struggle. And how many hats do you have to wear, right? So you're not in a position at this point where you get to wake up, tell somebody else or ask somebody else how you did yesterday, and then go out to your mailbox and collect a check.
Right.
Okay. Which is where everybody thinks they want to be, and why they get into the agency side is because they think they're going to build up this multi-million dollar company over the course of 3 days or 5 days or however long much effort they want to put into it. But that's not really true, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what does a normal, let's go into what does a normal day look like first,
Oh,
4 years in. And then, like I said before the show, I want you to just hit me. I mean, just literally interrogate me, and let's go through and hash out some of these things of shared knowledge, and talk about the hurdles and how do we get past those hurdles. Is that fair?
It is fair. And it's also scary, right? Because there's, and we talked about this a little bit. And you do a much better job of just putting your head down and going after it like you're a rhino. And I love that about your personality, and that's probably your spirit animal, right? I don't know what that means, but rhino comes to mind. You just put your head down and go after it. And I very much want to be even more so that way. A typical day. So that's what you had asked. What is the typical day? So typical day is get out of bed. If you're fortunate enough to get some good sleep, good for you. Hit your multivitamins. Right now I'm dealing with a little bit of back pain, so I'm eating ibuprofen on top of that. And I always look at my calendar the night before, so I know what's ahead of me. This morning would be a great example. I got up, it's probably 6:30, ate my vitamins, drank my coffee, got my nicotine in me because I have habits, and headed out and met a gentleman for a meeting. It was somebody that had reached out to me, and they just wanted to catch up from my past. That was a fantastic meeting. It certainly wasn't about business. So even though it was about friendship and just reconnecting, because I think you have to make time for that, it's always kind of a ding because you're like, damn, there's like 2.5 hours of my life that I could have been more productive towards my bottom line. From that to connecting here, having some great conversation. We took a short break, and I cracked a joke that, man, like people know when I'm available because they call, like they know. Mm-hmm. And so just during that time, it was, and it's funny that you said it, a check actually dropped through our mailbox here while we were visiting. So called in saying, hey, this client covered, so make sure their invoice is marked. I saw some Slack messaging coming over from this client. Make sure you address that. Are we on track with this client and their content being posted, and where are we at here? And so this a quick 10-minute phone call, though, it keeps me knowing that the business is running. Mm-hmm. Things are happening on behalf of our clients. As soon as we're done with this conversation, you and I talked about in-kind and doing some things as pet projects and things like that. I have an in-kind project that I'm working on today for a church that I'll be working later hours tonight to make sure that I'm delivering. But for the most part, we always, I say me and my team, we always take a time out and we go, okay, here's our list of clients. Here's where we're at with them. Here's what their campaigns look like. Here's where we're going. And this is what it looks like for, say, the remainder of the year as far as profitability.
So let's switch gears. You said something that's kind of interesting, because one of the things that we talked about in the video with me and Craig is I made a statement. I got a lot of pushback of I don't do free, right? And that isn't true. Okay. I don't give free handouts to people. So I want to touch on the in-kind, because that's important, and that's going to lead us into probably a very interesting conversation.
Okay.
Do sales, right? So I do give a lot of my time away for free. I give a lot of my financial resources. People are unaware that I donate 18% of my earnings to children-based charities. Okay, so there's all of these things that I do, but free versus in kind. Okay, so if in the reason why I'm bringing this up is from a sales perspective, in kind comes back. Karma is a wonderful thing if you treat it well, and karma is a bitch if you ignore her, right, or treat her poorly. So in kind, let's talk about the benefits of in kind. Can you touch on some of the things that you do from an in kind donation of projects, et cetera, and maybe how that's rewarded you over the 4 years that you've been doing this?
Sure, absolutely. So it's funny because I see someone just drove up to my office and they're knocking on my door, who I'm doing in-kind work for. I'm sitting here text right real quick. I'm so sorry. And then let me answer that for you. So that's, I don't know what you would call that. You had mentioned karma, the serendipity, or whatever that is. Synchronicity, maybe, I don't know. So the whole spirit and intent behind the in-kind. Sometimes I feel it's our responsibility if we have a skill set and we can help someone with that skill set. First and foremost, it's helpful. Mm-hmm. The other, though, is there are payoffs in that people get to experience your process. They get to experience how to work with you and what that looks like. And when you're doing in-kind, especially for nonprofits or churches or people that are really in the community, I look at it as I'm doing business development for people that are going to talk about me. Mm-hmm. And in turn, I hope that my phone blows up and, hey, we really love what you did on this church website, and we've got some questions. Can you help us here? Oh, absolutely. And now all of a sudden we've created a client. It's no different than hey, we have a mutual friend and so-and-so. And it's like the door is kicked wide open because that trust is just built immediately, it seems like.
Sure.
I think that's the importance. Too, of course, it makes you feel good because you're helping others. But more importantly, it also helps your business. Just even when the business name comes up and you're not around, somebody can vouch for you.
So one of the things that I did at the beginning was I was giving away a lot of free work. And I had an assumption that if and when somebody needed something that they were going to spread the word, et cetera, et cetera. And I still do a lot of free work, but I had to clearly delineate the difference of where that help would land, if that made any sense, or if that makes any sense. So I stopped doing free work for people, and I actually started pre-qualifying, what is the end result of this work? So if I'm doing it for a church, as an example, I know that I'm benefiting the congregation of the church, not just a single person to then capitalize on the end result. And when I made that change, because I actually looked at all of the free stuff that we were doing, and I realized that there were certain people that were always coming back saying, hey, I want more for free. I want more for free. And they were never giving back. So it was a very selfish act for them they were taking advantage of us. But the youth organizations, and we build out Kenmore Wrestling, which is a youth wrestling foundation out of Akron, Ohio. And we sponsor it's an inner city kids wrestling thing for kids that aren't old enough to wrestle in school yet, but it's teaching them the fundamentals and all of this stuff. So we give back in those ways. And that has done more for us leaps and bounds in return, because it's an unselfish act. Right. Versus, Jim Bob's Pizza doesn't have any money and they're just using you as, hey, you're the guy that can make this happen for me, and I really don't want to pay for it, and there's no value. So do you think there's a difference? I mean, I've kind of already given you the answer, but
yeah, you did. But yeah, I mean, I think there is a difference, because like you had said. I mean, one is community focused, and you're helping more than just one person that's going to benefit from it, and that's huge. The other, though, too, is that I mean, I want to help out Jimmy John's Pizza or whoever that was, because I love pizza.
Sure.
So give me some pizza, like keep me in pizza for the next year, and we got a deal. I think that it's those that they refuse to even go on trade. They don't want any skin in the game. Mm-hmm. That's what kills us, especially if we say yes to that.
And the new trick that's out there is trading effort for, sweat equity. And right. You'll see that from a lot of startups. And it's a pitfall for people that, hey, I'm starting this company, but I don't have any money. And if you do what you're an expert at, I'll give you a percentage interest in a company that may never go anywhere. And most companies fail. Most of those companies fail. And I've fallen for that time and time and time again. And, you know, I tell everybody I own 25 companies right now, but I'll be very honest that 17 of them have not made any money in 2020. And I've still put in the work for it. And maybe they'll make money in 2021. But if I had to do a self reflection and look at where my time was invested versus the money that I'm making for the efforts that I'm providing, I'm putting more effort into the companies that aren't making any money and neglecting the companies that are, you know, that I have an ownership interest in that are paying me the money.
And that's interesting. So we did that exercise with our clients, and we walked through and we went, look, let's look at their investment level every month, and let's look at the work that we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And why is it we're doing the same amount of work at different levels of their investment? But I'm not good with that. If they want more, they can pay more.
Sure.
Well, simple. We're not killing ourselves. And so the moment we did that, we all went from like a 40-hour work week to like a 5-hour work week.
Sure.
And they went, oh, we need more clients. Now that was my bad because I hate sales. And so I'm like, damn it, now I got to work 10 times harder.
Sure.
But that's interesting because you're absolutely right. We do have some partnerships with people, not ownership on paper, but we'll ask that. So we'll shoot them. Here's our standard monthly SEO investment. And for some of them, they'll say, hey, how about this? We'll throw you a quarter of that, but we'll also give you X amount percentage recurring revenue for everybody that you bring in. So we're like, oh, well, we can track this stuff. And we'll track the calls. We'll track all of it. We'll record calls if we have to. And now this client, of course, is like, I'll do you one better. Here's the login to my CRM where we're marking off all of the sources and everything else. And so there's some deals that can be pretty good because now you get to perform and you get to kind of, you know, show off your chops, and the reward potentially is much higher than what we would charge at a monthly level.
I had a client, and you just gave another nugget or another gold nugget or diamond or whatever you want to call it. But I had this client that was referring me clients every month. And I felt bad at one point. Thank you so much. And I said, hey, here's what I'm going to do, because I have an investment in sales to a certain extent, and I have salespeople doing different things for me, but I'm paying my overhead for that position is roughly 12%. Okay. So the client that was referring me clients, I said, tell you what I'll do. You keep referring me clients. I'll pay you 10% as a referral fee recurring for as long as they're a client. And this was a bigger company, and they were like, really? And I said, absolutely. I appreciate that you think so highly of us, but at the same time, I want to reward you for that because you don't have to make the referral to us. So I started paying them this referral bonus, and they were a client. And then all of a sudden we went negative.
Their SEO is free and you're cutting them a check, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And my accountant came back to me and said, this doesn't make any sense. You're doing all of this work and then you're paying them to do the work for them. So you're showing payroll here and all this other stuff. And I said, well, but why would I do that any differently? Why wouldn't I take advantage of the relationship, the strong bond and the good relationship that I have with this company who thinks so highly of us that they're going to tell all of their friends that they should use us too, and not continually reward them for us? That argument lasted about 2 months with the accountant. No kidding. And it was ongoing because they couldn't make sense of it. But if you have clients that are doing that, reward them. I was watching this back and forth discussion happen on Facebook in one of the groups, and I don't really participate in the groups, and they were talking about referrals. And I had such a hard time not responding. Well, I can't respond because, I'm currently suspended on Facebook again. But, you should only give them a one-time referral fee. Well, is the referred client only writing you a check one time? Because if that's true, the answer is yes. But if they're writing you a monthly check, the benefit is if you're writing a referral fee check out to that, whoever the referrer is, every month, and then there's something happens with the relationship over here, and they were the person who referred to them, they're going to help you keep that client because they're invested. And it helps you in more ways. One, it helps you retain the client, but two, it actually helps you build up your processes because you have interaction and you can see where maybe you could improve your processes. Is that
Absolutely.
a
Absolutely. And two, they'll even reach out to you and go, hey, what else can I say? What else do you sell? What else? Because I know that all kinds of people. We actually, and I love it, by the way, because we do, and you and I haven't talked about this. We're exactly the same way when it comes to referrals. So it's 10% happens to be the magic number as long as they're a client. And it's interesting that you brought this up because there's another side to this too. And I didn't realize it. I thought it was a great deal for everybody in business. I was recently introduced to a painting company from a friend that I've met trying to do business development. And she was having her house painted and said, I need you to come over here. I want to introduce you to these people. Their website sucks. And I want you to get them as a client. I know you're going to take care of them. And I went, oh my God. Hey, I'm going to go grab some coffee on my way over. What do you want? So, I show up and here's an $8 cup of coffee for you just as a thank you. And then she introduced me to these folks and met with them. And we're setting up a meeting for next week, but was visiting with her afterward. And I said, listen, just so you know, if we close business with them, how do you like to receive money? And she's like, what are you talking about? How dare you? And I went, whoa, hold on. This is the only way I can possibly say thank you to you. And she's in the mortgage industry. I don't talk to people about their mortgages. I don't give a flying F about their mortgages. And so this is a way for me to say thank you. If it buys you a steak dinner once a month or, whatever you want to do, it's thank you because my business is growing because of you. And man, she was squirmish and like, oh, I just don't like that. I'm your friend. I would do this for you. And I'm just like, I know. And because you're my friend, this is how I reciprocate, right? I mean, it's a give and take. And if I can't possibly give, this is the only way I can give. Will you please accept this? Like begging someone to take money. So you too have to be kind of cautious about how you propose that to people. Really know your audience, because I had no idea that she would be offended by it. How dare you my friendship with you in check like this? You can't buy me. I love you. And I'm just like,
One of the funnest experiences I had with landing a client. This was me as just me early on, and I did it by accident. And a lot of the thing, you find a lot of your successes if you're paying attention and you're reflecting on what's working. I did this by accident, and it's hilarious. So I met with this guy, not going to mention his name, met him for coffee at our local Caribou Coffee. And what I had done was I had bought a whole bunch of thank you cards. And before I even went to meet him for coffee, I wrote out the thank you card. I had sealed it and everything. And then I put a business card in there. Right. And so I meet with the guy. He said, yeah, let's meet again, blah, blah, blah. And I said, great. What's your address? We'll just call him Bob, right, for conversation. What's your address, Bob? And I reach into my messenger bag and I pull out this card and I said, what's your address? And I wrote out his name and I wrote out the address, and it already had a stamp on it. Okay. And he said, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm going to send you a thank you card. Okay. Now think about this. Okay. So he looked at me and he said, but you're right here. You could give it to me. And I said, but there's no fun in that. And right outside of the Caribou Coffee that we met at, there was a post office drop box, right? So I wrote out his address and he saw me write out his address. And then I sent him the card in the mail. And he walked out and he was just kind of scratching his head. He's like, what? This doesn't even make any sense. Okay. And he said, why are you doing that? And I turned around, I said, because for some things that are truly important to you, you have to wait for some things. You're going to remember 2 days from now or tomorrow or whatever, when you get this card and you read what's in that card, just how important it was for what we just talked about. Okay. And in that card, it said, dear Bob, I only have 2 clients and your business will be important to me. And I appreciate you taking this meeting with me because you are going to give me the opportunity to grow my business.
Wow.
Based on the trust that I hope you give me.
Wow.
He didn't know what that said until 2 days later.
Wow.
Was he going to pull the trigger?
You bet he was.
Boom, right now. And when I came back to the table, and I think I hit him with like $3,000 a month because it was just a small business. He was a financial advisor business, whatever you want to call it. And we came back to the table. And I hit him with $3,000 a month, and he said, that seems a little bit high. And I said, yeah, but think about how hard I'm going to work for you. And he said, because you only have 2 clients. I said, I'm hoping you're the third. And it's that honesty, right? So when you walk in and you're honest and you're thoughtful and you're having that conversation and it's very meaningful with people, that's what sells. You see how I'm segueing into another?
Oh, I do. I absolutely love that. I hope whoever watches this is just like, I need to go buy a box of thank you cards and some stamps right now. That's gold right there.
Because nobody does that. I didn't do it on purpose. It wasn't a sales pitch. It wasn't an approach. It was something me saying, I'm hurting. I only have 2 clients right now. And I could literally probably give up and go work at Subway or go work for another company doing the stuff that I do and make more money doing this. But how do I make that commitment to the people who I'm hoping are going to commit to me?
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like a happy accident. I think it's just gold. And I do like that you send thank you cards. I think that is a touch anymore that we're older, so we get it. But the younger people, I don't know, maybe they get it. I remember being a little kid and, oh my God, the mailman's here. Maybe today's the day I get something in the mail. It's always for mom and dad, and then finally you get something, it's a card from grandma with a buck in it, but it felt good. And so if anything, that's something and we used to do that and we're kind of getting away from that. And I think that's sad. I'm glad you brought that up. It's something that we need to do more of. And it doesn't have to just be, hey, thanks for the meeting. It can be months down the road. Thank you for your business. Mm-hmm. Just a thank you. It doesn't even have to have a gift in it or anything else. It's just, I just mean this. I'm taking the time to let you know I appreciate you.
I actually, and this is kind of a secret, but it's not going to be a secret. But every time I meet with somebody, I send them a thank you card. Every potential prospective client, whatever it is. And I went into a larger client, for a meeting. And what I started doing to this extent is I would send the team members a thank you card. When they hired somebody new, I would send a thank you card addressed to them. And I'd say, thank you for joining the XYZ company's team. You're an important aspect of the success, and you have a great team. You're surrounded by a great team, and I look forward to working with you. Right. And it could be the entry level social media manager of this huge multi-million-dollar company. And then when I walk in for the next meeting, I'm like, hey, Susie, how you doing? Right. And I can turn it on at times. I can turn on that charm, and I love doing it. Hey, Susie, how you doing? Great. And it builds that bond. And there's been some fireworks that have happened with clients that I'll share. That one client, they were getting ready to fire us over being blamed by a bad employee, that we were doing things, or, the bad employee was trying to cover up their lack of execution in their responsibilities and passing the blame off onto us. And all the people in that department swarmed in and said, no, right? We like this guy. We like this company. And you're not doing that, right? He did not do that. I can show you where you did this and you did that and you did that, and you don't get to pass that blame off.
Wow.
All because of thank you cards, showing the appreciation, not just to the person who's writing you the check,
right,
but the smallest team member.
That's amazing. Yeah. Wow. Man, you're making me up my game. I like this. I like it a lot. We're kind of coasting over here, and that's it. What is it? Stupid things get you stupid prizes or whatever. Well, I guess we need to quit being stupid about some stuff we're doing. That's
yeah. So let's talk about sales, because
yeah.
the biggest questions that I get, and can I tell on you, you were like, hey man, I hate sales. Is that okay to say that? Like, I hate this.
Hey, can we not maybe say that? It's kind of late now, isn't it?
But everybody hates sales, right?
I think everyone does.
In I'm no different. And everybody was like, man, you're so good at sales. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, I never walk into anything thinking I need to be good at convincing somebody to make a decision. And I'm sure you're the same way. And that kind of bothers you.
It does bother me. So, and it's the weirdest thing. So I've been told, dude, you're amazing at sales. Me, I walk around going, oh, I hate sales. I don't want to do sales. And so what I do is I avoid everything but sales. And I just naturally try to be me. Now, I think my personality probably cuts through, and my excitement about what we're doing and what we could do for somebody. And man, I just love it. And it's genuine and it's sincere. I think all of that sells it. And then I get all nervous when we're talking about pricing or investment levels or however you want to quote it. But because I feel like, well, I didn't really do a good job of now positioning this for this dollar value. I did it out of my heart and I'm excited about it. And I think that might hurt me too, that people go, well, you love this stuff so much, you probably just do it for nothing and be happy. Sure. Right? I think people probably see that. And so I think that's probably where I hate sales the most, is that not meeting new people. I love meeting new people. I love learning about people. I ask a lot of questions. I want to really get to know somebody, and it's not for anything other than I'm just curious. I'm genuinely curious. I want to get to know you, your business, what you're doing. How do I fit in and help you with your mission? Because I just appreciate and respect a business owner.
Sure.
Right? And so it's then when you go, okay, well, here's the investment level. And they go, whoa, what the hell? And what I'm finding myself doing more and more now is I go, hey, real quick, do a search for SEO specialist, salary SEO specialist. And we'll just take whatever spits out at us. And it's typically between $32,000 and $65,000 annually that you would hire someone. That doesn't mean the tax that you're paying on, doesn't mean the health insurance that you're going to carry. Maybe you do 401k matching or so you think about those numbers and tack that on top of the salary. Am I really that expensive?
See, I used to do something similar to that. And, we were offering web design, we were offering, content writing, we're offering marketing, all of these things, marketing automation, advertising, Google pay-per-click, all of this stuff. And I used to bring all of those together, right? All of those salaries for the individual.
Wow.
And, because we're talking, everybody wants to sit at the big boy table for Thanksgiving. And sometimes we're talking to big companies like Walgreens or Target, which, don't take on Target as a client because they suck. But, you're talking to these big companies. We fired Target. That was the first client I ever fired, by the way. And I'm happy to do that. Still happy that I did it. But we would bring that in because sometimes you're talking about 20 grand a month. Right. And you start talking about all of these people, doing these positions. But what I would do is I would deflect, right? So deflection is a great sales tool when you use it appropriately. But I would go through and I would build that conversation. And I think we have a problem with, hey, we're friends. Hey, we're going to do a great job. And then from the sales side, flipping over, right? So flipping over and saying, here's what it's going to cost you. Right. Because, and that's the tough sell, because you're like, oh, am I worth that? Is that?
Yes and no. So I think some of it is, am I worth that? And I think that's probably where I pull up the salary so I can justify it not only to them, but to myself. Mm-hmm. But the other side of it too is now respect me as a businessman, because I have resources and my time is valuable, and you really want to make sure that you're like putting your foot down. I won't be taken advantage of. And so it's interesting because, again, where you're an awesome salesperson because you're friendly and you're excited and all of these things, now it's time to get the business. They have a completely different animal in front of them. Mm-hmm. it's Jeremy with the numbers and blah, 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 blah. And I think that's where the transition is really weird.
So let's talk about that transition, because I'm gonna lay out a nugget or a diamond. I need to come up with a term for this, right? Because I keep referring to it as nuggets, and it makes me hungry because I want chicken nuggets. But anyways, so the deflection tool that I used was, are you familiar with what they call OK Deal in the car business?
No.
So OK Deal, a car salesman, they'll go through the process of showing everything and building value in the vehicle, and this is exactly what you want, and we're getting you the color, the options, et cetera, and everybody wants a $250 a month payment on a $40,000 car. Does that make sense? So what the salesperson will do is they'll do what they call OK Deal, where they're listing out all of these things, and they're saying, here's what it is, here's all of the things that are included, and that's going to cost you $600 a month, which on a $40,000 vehicle, that's actually going to cost you $80,000 a month. Or I'm sorry, $800 a month. Okay, so $800 a month when you came in expecting a $250 a month payment on a purchase versus a lease. So what I started doing is I started doing this deflection thing, and I would deflect that right back onto them. So as soon as they objected to my price, because I would come in and I'd say, okay, we're going to do this, and this, and it's going to cost you this much a month. They would say, no. Let's assume it's 10 grand a month. This is going to cost you 10 grand a month. No. We were expecting 5. Well, great. Would you pay yourself to do that? Would you pay yourself all of that money to do that amount of work? Would you pay yourself $5,000? No. You'll never they'll never say yes. So if you're not willing to pay yourself $5,000 a month to do that amount of work, how do you expect us to do that amount of work for $5,000 a month? Whatever that number is. And then just sit back, just like in a car sale, and first person that speaks loses.
Right.
Don't justify it. You're doing real work. And I think probably the issue is, one, they're fishing. They're trying to see how hungry you are. They're testing you at that point, but you can still maintain your friendship. And you didn't have to go into this. I've seen all of these sales pitches, even for the other companies that I own, when other marketing companies are pitching us. And they're like, well, I guess we could do 8,000 a month. No, you just lost.
Yeah.
You came in at 10 grand. I said I expected 5, and then you negotiated. You didn't ask me to justify where I came up with 5. I could have come up with 2. My number could have been 2. Does that make sense? Do you kind of see that?
Oh yeah. And we lose a lot because it's almost like I'm anticipating the negotiations happening. And so what I do is I'll take the investment level and I'll say, this is your monthly investment. This gives you the right to walk away at any time. If this is outside of your budget, then what I'll do is I'll start shaving off that monthly, but we're extending the time. And now you're into us for a 6-month investment.
So I would challenge you on that you're probably losing in the end. Okay. And I'll challenge you on that to come back at a later date, right? If you go back in and you said, how much more profitable could I be if I just stood my ground and said, this is what it costs, $10,000 a month. Well, I think it should cost 8. Well, it's great. What is your basis for thinking it should cost 8? Well, that's what we have budgeted for it. Okay. I didn't create your budget. Now we can do $8,000 a month, $8,000 a month worth of work, but I really need to get you to 10, because you're going to benefit so much greater from making that $10,000 investment, and whatever got you to the $8,000 budget probably didn't include these services that we've already talked about. Does that make sense?
Love it, man. Are you sure you don't want to come sell for me?
Well, you sent me a message and you're like, man, I hate sales and I want to hire a salesperson. And what did I tell you?
No, you are your brand. No,
you are your brand. And people buy into, and that's the negative, because I'm going kind of punch everybody in the face right now. If you're fat, ugly, dress poorly, pick your nose, didn't shave, whatever that looks like, your clothes don't match, your prospective clients are judging you every minute. And they probably know within the first minute of talking to you whether they ever have any intention of doing business with you. Is that a fair statement?
Oh, absolutely. Because I'm exactly the same way. And I don't need a minute. I can see you, the way you walk across the room. I don't like you, or I like you.
Sure. And we were talking before this that when I meet with a prospective client, because I still have that happen, I wear a tailor-made suit. I am dressed to the nines. I have my $600 Brooks Brothers Cordovan shoes on, my gray window pane suit with a matching, everything. And I'll spend an hour, literally from a personal hygiene standpoint, making sure that I don't have one of my white whiskers isn't, sticking out and doing the crazy curly thing, right?
Yes.
So the misnomer within our business is that everybody can just show up wearing maybe a polo shirt, some cargo shorts, and some flip-flops and sell their services based on their, experience or their expertise, when most of the decisions are made based on that. How do you look?
I think that's pretty amazing. I think you hit on something there too that a lot of us probably do, and that's especially when you're brand new. So one of the things, I'm sure you probably did this, was I need to go rank something. Like so let me go rank it, because then I can prove my worth. Well, and it's true. Some people ask, well, what have you ranked? And so it's, well, let me show you. But then we go in, we kind of hang our hat on that kind of thought process, and we go in and we go, they're going to love me because I know where the traffic is. I know how to get it. I know how competitive it is. I know how long, ideally, it's going to take me to get it. And I've got this whole package put together, and it means I understand every single line. And then you show up and you're like, with your zipper shirt on and your blue jeans, and you go, check it out. And this is totally me too. So I'm not beating up at anyone but myself, but here it is, man. I've spent all this time, effort, and energy. I put this all together. It is glorious. This is how much traffic we're going to bring in, how much new revenue we're going to bring in. You're absolutely going to love it. And they can't get over the fact that there's a dog hair right there on my shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just like, all of that's lost on it, because I don't like the fact that you refuse to even show up and show me the respect that you'll spend the hour looking good.
The best slap in the face that I have ever had in business, and I say this over and over again because it's as I remember all of my failures, and there have been plenty, is that I had a friend who became a friend because they worked for a client of mine, and he was my first line resource at that client. And he left that company and went to go work for a different healthcare industry company. And we at that point in time, we were in the healthcare industry pretty hard, right? Or health apps, health everything. So this guy goes to work for this other company, and he said, hey, I want to bring in these guys. Okay, I worked with him at the previous company. He's the VP of operations. He's one of the big guys. And I want to bring these people in because I know their work. I know that they can do the job and they'll do it well, et cetera, et cetera. So we get the opportunity to pitch this health company. And we went in and I knocked it out of the park. You would have thought I was Zig Ziglar in my sales pitch, where I walked out of there and I was just, everybody was high-fiving. Everybody was giddy, and not for the fake reasons. It's because I think that was my best sales presentation ever. Didn't get the client. Okay. So I followed up with the guy and I said, hey man, I don't get it. I've had people pull the trigger on this and hire us with sales presentations that were dog shit compared to what I did there. I said, why didn't we get the business? What his answer was, because you're fat. Exactly, right? You just did that taken aback, right? Yeah. And I said this is a reality. If you work for a company, they can't tell you things. They can't treat you a certain way. But when you're another business, they can make a decision not to do business with you for any reason. And their reason was because I was fat. I was overweight. And I said, that's terrible. And I mean, this is the C-level positions that I met with. These are all the decision makers. And I said, I don't get it. And he said, here's the thing. This is a health company. This is a health fitness company. That what we do is, senior citizens, AARP, we reward them through our rewards program for fitness. And the way the executives looked at you is that you did a great job explaining what you could do, but if you couldn't take care of yourself, how could they give you such an asset to give you permission for our entire health fitness company if you can't take care of yourself?
Wow.
That's real.
That is very real. On top of that, I kind of have to commend that company for, I mean, they're staying true to their mission statement, right? I'm guessing, but their image and everything else. I mean, and that's a tough pill to swallow. And it's weird. I've seen on Facebook here recently, and not to pick on fat people, I don't look like it on camera, even though it adds 10 pounds, but I'm not in shape. And I've seen ads where there's literally, and it's clearly obese people talking about their health product that they're selling.
Sure.
And you need to buy our health product. You're going to love it. It's amazing. And I just sit there and I'm just like, hire someone that looks healthy. Why would I buy this stuff? And so you don't realize it until you see it firsthand and you're like, oh, we do judge. I mean, obviously we judge people by appearances, and as sad as it is kind of telling. Like, I kind of appreciate where they're coming from, where they're like, well, if you can't take care of yourself, how can you possibly take care of us? And you had mentioned Zig Ziglar, and I think it was Zig Ziglar, and maybe it was Jim Rohn, who talks about the oxygen mask coming off when the plane is failing. You put your mask on first before you help other people. So you've got to take care of you first, before you should ever think about taking care of other people. And so it's interesting because I can't speak for you, but I don't view the world through those lenses. At least I don't think I do, right? Until it happens. And then we go, oh shit, we're just as guilty as everybody else. But we think that, well, everything we do is online. I'm not going to go meet your customer. I'm probably not going to talk to you very much. Like, we'll have a meeting on Zoom once a month and we'll catch you up on what we're up to. And then we're heads down and doing this stuff. And so why is that such a big deal? I don't know, but it is. And because it is, we need to be very aware of that.
And the people who are win and the people who aren't don't.
Exactly.
It's my follow-up, and I was so disappointed in not getting that contract. Then the guy came back to me and he said, you know what the good news is? And I said no. He said, you're not ugly. He said, you can lose weight and come back to the table, right? He said, if you were ugly and we were a beauty company, you'd be in trouble. Right? I mean, real words, right? But I really want to hit home that this is going to piss a lot of people off, but I sit here in sweatshirts and t-shirts and everything else, and I do these videos, and I'm going to do an upcoming video at some point where, at some point when I'm meeting with a client in the future, I'm going to show people what I look like when I'm out on the street, showing up and doing the work. Because, I got news for everybody. If you think that you can just, wear fleece pajamas every day and be successful, you're really not being true to yourself.
Yeah.
You're kind of lying to yourself.
Yeah. And I kind of want to say, who wants to live that life 24/7? I mean, there's some fun to getting spiffed up and, let's go out and grab a drink and be kind of badass looking, be kind of, you work your ass off. Why not wear some pretty cool duds and go have a nice dinner or whatever else and just kind of reward yourself a little bit. If it doesn't, it's not like it feels bad to dress nice.
Well,
it's a lot of work.
And that leads into a great follow-up is, my girlfriend at one point said, "You like your clients more than me." And I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "You never dress up for me like that." And I was like, wow, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe I need to pay attention there too.
Yeah.
Because that's real. You want your wife to look pretty for you, or your girlfriend to look pretty for you. Your girlfriend wants you to look handsome for her, et cetera, et cetera. And guess what? Your client doesn't want to buy garbage from somebody who looks like, with Cheetos in their hair and unkempt, right?
You're exactly right. And too, I think that, I could see this happening to me. You look at the dollar sign of what they're investing, and you're like, they're a smaller client. No, they're investing with you. It doesn't matter what their investment level is. They get the same amount of respect. And two, you never know, back to the whole referral, you don't know who they're going to introduce you to. Just because their budget, isn't massive doesn't mean they don't know people. They're up and coming too. And their mentors or their friends in business may be a much larger, powerful group than what you're used to seeing. So I'm glad we're having this conversation. I want to go home and put my suit on now. And
so one of the clients that I actually landed, it was forced down this client's throat. They had a VC, VC investors, and it was a health company or a health, I don't know, they made different types of products. And the client, or the person who forced the client to become the client, was never a client of mine.
Okay.
And it was based on that persona of, he knew who I was. I'd met with him on multiple occasions, and he owns a very large company, but he made a decision that he was too large to hire us. And he actually went in and hired positions full time, and he needed to. And it was very obvious at that point. But then a year down the road, when he had invested in this other company and they needed those services and they weren't at that point, he said, "You're going to hire these guys." Well, the guy his name was John. He's like, "Well, I think I should blah, blah, blah." And he said, "Well, you can meet with them and you can do whatever, but these guys are the real deal and you are hiring them, hands down. If you want more of my money invested into your company, you will do business with these guys." And that company ended up going broke anyways, because it was kind of a garbage product. But it was kind of an interesting process. That would have never happened if I had showed up looking like Jim Bob.
Right. Well, I think you kind of touched on something too, and not to just kind of ping pong us all over the place, but although these conversations are fun like that, it makes me wonder, because I'm sure a lot of people that would watch this they're kind of like, oh, great. So you're talking about how to dress with the meetings. You're talking about your past experiences. You're talking about people referring business to you, but no one has said, how does that shit happen? Like, where's the inception of this? Like, I can see the cycles happening here somewhere. You did something that kicked off this catalyst of things to come. And so I have a pretty strong feeling that you bang the phones. I have a pretty strong idea that obviously you send thank you cards at every meeting that you set up. You can't be everywhere at everyone, so I imagine you're using Zoom to have some meetings and share some information. I think I watched a video with your slides, and it was kind of here's my walkthrough of their website, and you weren't selling them anything. You were just, here's my impression of your website, and just kind of mic dropping and let's talk, And so, but I think a lot of people are probably curious. I'm curious because I found different ways to connect with people, but I haven't quite found the way that if I wanted to go out and I woke up tomorrow morning and I said, you know what, 10 new clients today, and here's exactly what I'm going to do. And by the end of the day, it might be a 20-hour day. That's okay. I'm in the Midwest, so I can call California and they're 3 hours behind us or 2 hours, whatever. So, or I can call ahead up and talk to people in Europe. I don't care. I'm going to get 10 clients today. I'm curious what your go-to method is. I don't have one. I would probably go hit LinkedIn. I'd hit apps like Alignable. I'd start banging phones. I'd probably start scraping chamber websites with code and grabbing.
I don't do any of that. I used to. And you find yourself spinning your wheels a lot. I do a lot of targeting, and it's what I call the 0.2 factor, divide by 0.2. So 20% engagement, 20 of 20. So if I want to make 5 sales, I need to contact how many people, right? And it goes back to, I'm sure there's a Grant Cardone or, Zig Ziglar or whatever that looks like. But I realized that if I wanted to engage with one person, I needed to reach out to 5. And I used a very basic formula. Okay, if I wanted to make a sale, now that 20-20, right? So 20 by 20. If I wanted to talk to one person, I had to reach out to 5, but I had to talk to 5 people in order to get one sale. So I had to reach out. If I wanted one sale, I needed to make 25 phone calls in a day, because then I would engage with 5 and I would hopefully capture 1. And then you start working through those numbers. But at the beginning, I didn't do it well. And I said, every client's a good client. And I didn't go niche specific. And I'm going to tell on everybody that says, hey, focus on a niche, because that's it. All marketing is marketing. All SEO is SEO. And it really doesn't matter. And we have clients in all different market verticals. So what I would do is I would use, we still use Scrapebox, best $99 you can spend, email harvesting. And we would start sending out all of these campaigns, and we would start targeting areas, niches, et cetera. And we would go after these things, and we would use, I don't remember what it is, but it's some sort of a extra added thing that they do. And this isn't a sales pitch. There's no affiliate play on Scrapebox, but I think it may cost you $300 total one time as an investment to start harvesting emails in all of these different verticals. And then we would actually discount those verticals, and we're in a position where we don't want to do business with anybody with less than a 5 million per annum revenue, because they're at that point where they really need the marketing, the heavy hitting SEO and all, and they're making purchasing decisions at this point, or not purchasing decisions, but employment hiring positions, that they're looking to hire a marketing person. And they're only hiring for one task. So we could come in with our toolbox and say, we do marketing, PPC, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You're a 5 million per annum person. Do you have all of these people in place? Your design, your content, et cetera, et cetera. And then we would literally pound the phones. You are not getting away from us. You are, literally.
So once they showed a little bit of interest, then you're in.
I don't care if they showed interest.
Oh, okay. You just did it regardless.
Until they tell us to go away, we're standing at your door. And literally, it is, you're only going to get what you ask for. Sales is a contact sport. The more contacts you make, the more opportunities for engagement you get. And if you work that process out in reverse, it's pretty easy to figure out how much effort do you have to do, and keep track of your successes and be honest. So if you suck as a salesperson and you don't have a 20% engagement and 20% close off of the 20% engagement, adjust your numbers and then up your game, right? And I'm not going to ask you for those numbers, but my number was 18%. Okay. So literally I knew that my engagement was a lot lower. It was about 12, 13%, but my close ratio, once I was engaged with that person, was roughly about 18%. And then how much revenue did I need to create? Go after the right people. You can use a free app like hunter.io, and you can find anybody's email address. And I would pound the phones. And I did that at the beginning, but I didn't do it the right way. And now I still make phone calls. I am the biggest jerk to anybody who does sales for me. Would you want to work for me as a salesperson?
No. I'm telling you right now, no. I've seen some of your posts.
I am
with sales.
Yeah, I am so hard on salespeople that I make Grant Cardone look like an angel when it comes to sales, because I don't want to hear it. And I will use one, I'm not going to pay them a salary. You're either going to sell or starve. And two, don't come to me with excuses as to why you can't do it. Because if you're not doing it, it isn't because we can't provide those services. It's just that you're not good at telling those people and convincing them that they need them. Right. So I'm kind of a monster when it comes to sales. And I really feel bad for anybody that actually agrees to have that cup of coffee with me. You know what I mean? Because I'm going to, and that took years of honing that skill. But if you're not in that position and you don't have, we had 213 clients on the books last year. So when I decide to make, and I still go out and make sales calls, when I decide to meet with somebody, they better be in a position that they're going to make a decision. I'm not going to do the weak leave behind. Here's some material. Thank you for. There's a difference between being weak and humble, right? Or humble and gracious go well together, but when you add weak into it, that's called a loser. You know what I mean? You're not setting yourself up in a position to win. Do you use Scrapebox or anything of that nature?
No, I don't. So, and that's the thing. I hate that. Again, I keep saying it, so it's true, right? I'm trying to become better at sales. It's so, and I'm sure I'm just like a lot of people. We hate things that are uncomfortable. We don't necessarily get excited about being punched in the face routinely. I made this mistake of hiring in salespeople and putting them on Grant Cardone actually, and having them train up and then go bang the phones and here's a list. And I would simply, I wrote up my own code and we would just scrape businesses in the local area and just call them and get a conversation going. Where we would not, I really like your approach because it's less effort really, but as far as giving them some information, but we would actually go in and do some research and find out a lifetime value of a customer for them and how much, if there's some search traffic in the area, what does that look like and what could that mean for them, and really putting the pitch out there to them, only to be on the wrong person. Either you're not on the decision maker, you're way off in pricing, they're not even focused on that. And so that kind of went belly up, and which was great because it took a ton of my effort and energy and in what I was putting into the sales folks, and just I get to spin that on me and getting better at mine. Now, again, it's back to, I need to do a better job at developing a sales process. So eventually I'll never get rid of me in the business, but if I can have half of me, man, I would love to get a sale a day. That'd be amazing, right? I think everybody would love that.
So the other thing that I did that worked well at the beginning was I started doing like these free, I don't know what you call, like meetup type deals, right? Back then meetup wasn't a thing,
right?
But I would put on Eventbrite and I would do a marketing, free marketing conference, give us an hour, serve them some food, have them do a sign up, and then research the companies as, as they were signing up. And you'd be amazed at how many people would sign up and use a free resource like the library, where you can go in and talk about marketing, buy yourself $100 projector and the screening thing, and put on a presentation that just talks about marketing or talks about SEO or talks about whatever that is, and then bring them into you. So the one that we did, we ended up with a packed house, and I don't even know why. Well, I kind of know why, but somehow the word had gotten out that we ended up hosting at this like ice hockey field house type thing. And we had grown to the point where we were doing this once or twice a month.
Wow.
And we're getting 100 people in. Okay. And we would just, segregate or divide the audience, and we'd know who was showing up. We would do all of the research in advance that here's this person and what's their position within this company. We would know if they were the decision maker, and then we would have conversations with them. And I would force interaction within those, how do you do it, Becky, from Thomson Reuters? Right? I mean, Thompson showed up to one of our things. their marketing people showed up. And I said, I don't know why you're here except to learn, but I'm here to get customers. So, I think you're taking advantage of me, and we formed that relationship and, did it in a way where it was kind of a slap in the face, but two, you're offering information out to people. And we ended up having, I don't know, we probably gained realistically 2 to 3 new clients from doing those.
Is that per or just total?
That was per thing, right?
Wow.
Everybody wants answers to those questions, and you're offering them a free resource, and you're doing a Q&A session, and you're giving them free cookies and diabetes food and whatever that is, right? And then you just
a health company.
Sure. So, that's probably a nugget for people too, because everybody has those resources to do it. I don't know if you're doing stuff like that.
Oh, actually, I'm glad you did bring that up. It's something that I've done twice, and I've never really paid attention to the outcome of that. But since you've said that, the first time I brought on a client, they've been with us for 24 months now.
Sure.
The second one I brought on, and I just did this one maybe, I don't know, 5 months ago, brought on a client from that. And there is a lot of power in how in demonstrating your abilities. Mm-hmm. But the messaging really, and I'm trying to say this without bragging. I'm blessed enough that I'm aware that I'm of what I'm getting ready to present on, know thy audience, and present on something that could help 80% of the people in the room. Because that too is not lost on those who are watching that. Wow, this is pretty good stuff, not just for me, but for that guy and that gal. And we can talk about this afterwards. And the questions I ask, they may want to ask. So you want to be really aware of, I'm not just talking about SEO. So an example would be the first presentation I gave was all about SEO. And I literally said, this is a 45-minute presentation. I'm going to show you in 45 minutes, everything I do in my back office, because I was to a point where it's just like, you know what? I don't care. I'm just going to give it away. And I literally had a slide talking about everything that we do and just ran through it. And it wore me the hell out. I saw people feverishly writing things down. And then at the end of it, I'm asking, answering questions. And, I'm a blogger from this and this, and I'm marketing over here. And so not one decision maker, everybody was there for the lesson, except for the one decision maker happened to become a client. Yeah, crazy fun thing.
That leads me into something that I learned recently. Okay, recently that I had a recent aha moment, and it's just the grind versus the lure. Okay, so what you're talking about is the grind, and I'm leading into this because how I did it before and how I would do it differently now is if I did the same thing over again, I would give them 90% of the information, and then I would invite them to have a conversation to discuss the remaining 10. And I'd say, here's a broad synopsis of XYZ. Now, let's not have a conversation about how we can specialize and make this more specific to you. But if you want the 10% that's remaining, that is this specific thing, okay? So you're dropping the lure, okay? And you're determining your engagement, and you're dangling the carrot out in front of people. So if I was talking about SEO, just as an example, and I started talking about on-page SEO versus off-page SEO versus guest posts and link building and do follow versus no follow. And I'm going to lay out all of these things. And then I'm going to say, but if you want to know how to get from point A to point B, that's a separate conversation. And I'm not going to give that to you today. I don't care how hard you try to get that information. That's the pitch, because you're actually going to separate. You're going to separate about 50% of them. Immediately, they're going to say, hey, you know what? I got enough information. I really wasn't committed to moving the chains at all. I just really wanted to get away from my wife on a Thursday evening for an hour.
Eat some diabetic food. And
sure. And then the remaining 50%, you probably have 30 of that 50% that are just willing to make that commitment to get that little bit of information, but that remaining 20 you're going to be able to engage with them and take that in. Let's talk about how that impacts you and your business specifically. Let's talk about how that moves the chains. So I did a presentation for the SEO Mastery Summit last night, and I talked about Google crawl budget manipulation and how to manipulate Google's crawl budget. And that's something you would want to know, right?
Absolutely.
I'm not going to share that with you today, Jeremy. I'm not even going to share that with the audience because that's going to be a video down the road. You know what I mean? Right. And I want to give people, and I will share it with you. I mean, I'll share the slides with you after.
No, wait until I subscribe and hit the notifications tab on the YouTube channel.
Absolutely. But right. That's what we're doing in our sales process too. And I don't think that people are actually seeing that. They're not approaching that sales presentation, realizing that there's really no difference between what they're doing there versus enticing somebody to click the subscribe button, like button, comment, and notify me.
Exactly.
And if you're not doing that in your sales presentation, you're already failing from the beginning. Right?
Absolutely. And so that's creative too. And I don't know if that's something you can train up with people. If that's something that just happened naturally and you're paying attention to it because it's just like, oh, I keep doing the same thing, getting punched in the face. I want to win. How do I win? And then you start figuring these things out.
People would hate me. I'll share it with them. I'll give them a reason to hate me. But with the sales, with the call with the salespeople, I've had many of those calls. I am extremely tough on salespeople. I don't do apologies well. Here's your target. You set your target. Going back to that engagement, divide by 0.2, divide by 0.2. I don't allow excuses to happen. Never do I allow excuses to happen. They're just unacceptable. So I found myself in a conversation where, they set their targets, they set their sales goals. I asked them for the basis of why they set their sales goal. How much money do you want to make this month? If you want to make this much amount of money, you have to put in this much amount of work. And if you put in this much amount of work, this should be your average expected, et cetera, your wins. This should be your money. If you didn't hit that goal, let's identify why. So are you familiar with the 5 whys?
The 5 whys.
Yeah, 5 whys.
No, you would have said the 5 W's.
No, the 5 whys. I didn't come up with it. You can find the root cause of a problem by asking a why question 5 times.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And I think Toyota came up with it. I don't know who came up with it, but if Susie was late to work and you asked Susie why were you late to work? Well, because my son was sick. Why was your son sick? Well, because my mother watched him last night and fed him the wrong food and he had an allergy or allergic reaction to it. Why did your mom feed him the wrong food? Oh, because I didn't tell her that he had an allergic reaction to those foods. Within 4 whys on that scenario, Susie understood that she had to blame herself for the reason why she was late to work, and it wouldn't be anybody else's fault but her own. Right? So when we look at internal locus of control versus external locus of control, we're always fighting external locus of control. Does that make sense? So getting back to that, I'm probably emotionally abusive and definitely verbally abusive to salespeople. And that's okay because I never hire them full time. They're either going to sell for me and will entertain if you're making enough money. I mean, the worst thing a salesperson can ask me is, how much vacation time do I get in a year? In a year, do I get health insurance? Dude, if you're out there, or whoever, if you're out there selling, you don't need to worry about how much your health insurance costs or whether I'm giving it to you, because you're going to be able to afford it because you're successful. And if you're not successful, don't apologize to me, apologize to your family, because when, little Susie can't afford her ballet lessons, it's really your fault.
And that's a lesson for me, and that's a lesson for any agency owner watching this, right? I mean, that's on us too.
Sure.
That responsibility.
And then I would bring up, I'd say, well, you set your goal, right? We sat down and we said, what is your target for this month? How many sales do you want to make? How much money do you want to make? And if you didn't reach your goal, you didn't fail me, you failed you. right? Don't apologize to me. I'll be okay. I'm still going to go on next month and the month after. And I'm going to, when I fail, I don't hold anybody else accountable and I don't apologize to anybody. I stand up, I take my licks, I reflect on what I did wrong or what I could have done better, and I move out or move on and do it again. I don't know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I tell my salespeople, if you want a friend, buy a puppy, because we're not friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we will high five. And going back to the sales side, and I know I'm probably going to lose a whole bunch of audience over this because a lot of people are going to be insulted by it. But, one, I'm not here to be anybody's friend, right? And when I deal with salespeople, one of the things that pisses me off the most is the woulda, coulda, shoulda, that you're dealing with a salesperson who maybe, they call you up. Oh, I just sold, blah, blah, blah. Great. Where's the contract? Where's the ink? Oh, well, we're going to talk again next Tuesday. Great. You know what? I don't even need to hear about it until after that contract is inked. And more importantly, don't nurse that client. What are you doing between now and then? You'd better be talking to more people, because if you're nursing your funnel, that funnel's going to dry up.
Yeah.
And I get so tired of salespeople that they get that big whale, right? And they're always going after the big whale. Well, you're going after the big whale because you're lazy and you don't want to put in the work to bring on the medium and smaller size clients that, what? If you brought on all of those smaller and medium sized clients and one of them leaves, it's not going to take away your entire paycheck.
Exactly.
Oh. So I don't know where do you go with that? Did that just kind of blow your mind?
No, I loved it. I mean, it's one of those things where it's just like, yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's one of the lessons that I learned early on in businesses. Until the money is actually in the bank, you better keep working.
Sure.
Don't be celebrating anything. Don't be spending money you don't have. You need to make sure that money's in the bank first. And which is why we like to get to an exercise of like, by contract. When do clients start rolling off? Because I think a lot of people, they're in the here and now. They're like, man, we're crushing it. We're making awesome money. And you're like, run your numbers. If you've got contracts, run your numbers and you'll see right there, it all falls off eventually. Mm-hmm. So celebrate for about 5 minutes and get your ass back in your chair and start, doing what you need to do to bring in more business. Otherwise, you're not going to have a company for long. And it's a tough lesson to learn. I think the other lesson to learn too is when you get there, you're not there. I think we set goals for ourselves and we need to remind ourselves, hey, you just doubled up your revenue from last month and that was a goal. Set the goal right now and get busy. If anything, work a little bit harder. Mm-hmm. And that's the grind for me anyways. That's the grind, because it's like, and then people look at you and go, you're a workaholic and all you do is work. My dad loves saying this. And my dad, when I was growing up, the only time I got to see him is when I worked with him. So he worked a day job and then he ran a lawn service afterward. And it was sun up to sundown. He'd come home and he'd be kind of awake around, us for about an hour and he was crashed out. And then we didn't see him the next day till later on that night. Well, over the summers, I wanted money, and Dad was, you want something, go earn it. Okay, give me a job. Great, come out. You can do this lawn work with me. Mm-hmm. And that was like what my relationship with my father was, nothing but pure work. Mm-hmm. See, I mentioned earlier I was going to ramble and then I was going to forget where I was going with this.
But that's okay, because you actually brought up a good point that, when I was 11, my two best friends growing up were Chad and Scott. And they came over the one day and we used to ride our bikes down to the mall, and it was roughly about 2 miles down to the mall. I know kids don't do this anymore. I know there's probably some 30-year-olds that are like, what the hell? But they came over on their bikes the one day and they said, hey, you want to go watch a movie with us? I said, sure. So I went in and I asked my dad and I said, hey, Dad, can I have $5 to go watch a movie with Chad and Scott? He said, absolutely, go earn it. Okay. And I was like, $5 back then, $5 got you a movie, popcorn and a soda. So that just tells you how old I am at this point, right? So I watched them ride their bikes off. Literally, I sat at the edge of my driveway and I cried. And then the next day I cried too, because I didn't get to go. And I never asked my dad for a dollar after that. Not a single dollar. My dad created that machine, and the military put that on steroids, because I started mowing grass and shoveling snow and delivering papers and hell babysitting neighbors' kids and all of this other stuff. I paid for my first car. First pair of Nike shoes that I ever owned, I bought for myself from Value City, because I was playing on the basketball team, and is Value City even exist anymore?
I don't know if we ever had one. We have something similar, probably Cargo Largo, I think is what it's called. But
Value City got all of the rejects. So you might get a shirt from them and one sleeve is longer than the other, and it didn't make the real store. But I started playing basketball in the 8th grade, and I needed these white Nike tennis shoes with the blue swoosh thing. And I found them for $19 at Value City because they had stitched across the swoosh. And those were the first Nikes that I ever owned. You know what I mean? Everything past that point was, don't expect anybody else to do it for you. You're only going to be successful. And, I don't hate my dad for that.
Right.
That was an important learning experience.
Yeah.
And then the military, they put it on steroids, because they're like, why don't I watch TV? Because it doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't get me anywhere. It doesn't move the chains. And everybody says, why do you work all the time? Because what else am I going to do? You know what I mean?
You said that. So, and that's what I was getting to when I was a kid and doing all of this work. I was probably close to graduating high school. My dad's still my dad doing his thing, and I'm now earning money in different ways and still, cutting grass or whatever. And I made a comment to him and I said, when I'm an adult, I am never going to work as hard as you do. I'm going to work smarter, not harder. And recently, this is every time I talk to my dad, he's like, hey, what's going on? I'm like, well, I'm just working. Yeah, it's 9 o'clock at night. What are you working on? Just stuff. I want to get some client stuff done. I'm doing this, I'm strategizing here. I'm just, hey, it's Sunday. Did you, watch a football game? I'm like, well, no, I'm kind of busy doing some stuff over here. He's like, are you working? I'm like, ha, 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 ha. I remember when you were a kid, you said you weren't never going to work as hard as I did. And ha, 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 ha. And so it's kind of interesting where it's just in that. I mean, I found a newfound respect for my father. Now, don't get me wrong. I still wanted him to work smarter, not harder.
Sure.
But he takes a lot of joy in just being outside and being in the element and changing the landscape for somebody. And that's just his bliss. And I don't have any issues with that. Just as I hope he doesn't have issues with me. I'm behind the keyboard, just, pounding out ideas and helping out our clients.
Sure.
But it's I think anybody, and this is kind of where we began with, we're talking about people that are either they have an agency and they've been running it for a while and they're in the throes of it, like I am. Where it's, we're every day as we're grinding out, we're trying to help people. We're trying to keep upbeat and not defeated. To some of that, maybe they're just thinking about starting out right now. This, just like any other business, you've got to put your ass in the seat, get stuff done day in and day out. There's no vacation. The only reason why I started this particular type of company is so that I could travel with my laptop and maybe every 5 minutes look up and go, oh, that's a nice view. And then right back down into it. Like, that's the vacation. In fact, I had like a mental breakdown, I guess, here in June because of all this COVID shit and not seeing people and everything else. And I told my fiance, I said, hey, you know what? My parents live down, my mom lives down in Florida. Let's go fly down there just so we can look at different walls. Mm-hmm. And she went, okay. We literally took our laptops and a change of clothes. We sat out in her driveway. We moved the table out there, sat out on the driveway and just sat there and hammered away just so that we could see palm trees instead of pine trees or whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the people that are just like, and it pisses me off when I see these people, they go out and they've got check out these bricks of cash and check out my Lambo behind me and all this nonsense where, and I'm not talking about like the people that actually have earned it. I love that. It's inspiring to me. And it's not a materialistic thing. It's just, not everybody wants a Lambo. Those are hard to acquire. You did the work, you got it. I know that's yours. That's totally different than, ew, I saw this in the parking lot. I'm going to take my picture, do this fake posing bullshit on somebody else's car. I would say to people that are thinking about starting their own agency, especially if they're new in business too, because I think that's another problem that the ego gets in the way, and they work the 9-to-5, and that was my problem. I worked the 9-to-5, and I'm like, well, I'm a manager now, and I can manage people, so I must know everything about business. Wrong. Sure. Wrong. You have a skill set. You know how to talk to people and herd cats. It has nothing to do with building a team, building a sales pipeline, building a system of your deliverables, marketing your own damn company, paying the taxes, planning for next year, measuring everything you're doing, staying on time. Where do you really? Good luck. Go do that. So I would tell anybody, oh, I'm just going to go do this thing that Bradley and Jeremy do, because they seem like they're alive and happy. No, we're fucking crazy. Like there's something wrong with us. But if you do, if you get comfortable with building your wings on the way down, is what I tell people. There is no safety net for people like us. We're constantly looking for just getting better and doing what we can. I will tell you though, and this is the weirdest thing, and I don't know and I am curious what your favorite moment was in business, but for me, my most favorite moment was when my first hire, and this is a salary employee, my first hire, giving, paying their paycheck and paying their taxes and all of that, and getting feedback from her going, I'm so excited. Now I get to go move into my own place. Mm-hmm. I've always wanted to live here. Now I can afford to do that. Now I can quit my second job. Now I can do these things. And for me, and I don't care what business it is, I think that it would have struck me exactly the same way, regardless of the business. The fact that we create opportunities for other people to grow mm-hmm. is the coolest freaking thing in the world. So the Lambos and the bricks of cash and all that shit, yeah, that's nice. That will never buy me that feeling mm-hmm. of something we created is benefiting someone else in such a way.
I don't know if I've shared this on this channel, but did you ever hear the pony story?
No, I don't think so.
So I decided that years ago that I would make people's birthdays, employees' birthdays, very personal. Okay. And, I'm always going to be thoughtful and recognize all of this stuff. And sometimes we get carried away with not paying close attention to detail. So we were doing our Monday morning stand up, and everybody was talking about their projects and everything else. And, how's this going? How's that going? And this person doesn't work for me anymore, but let's just go with one of my favorite employees named Gabby. Okay. And at the time she ran my graphic design. So we go, she was the cheerleader of the company. Like you could have the worst things happening, and she was always rah, rah, rah. This is why it's great. And we're going to do better next time. And, she was the employee that everybody you appreciated her.
We have a Gabby.
So, and they're wonderful. You hang on to them, and, so it's Gabby's turn. And, I said, how's everything going with your stuff? And she said, fine, everything's fine. Well, and I know that when a woman tells you that everything's fine, you'd better, the hair stands up on the back of your neck. Oh my God, what did I screw up? Right. So I start going through my notes, and we end the phone call. I'm like, oh my God, I missed Gabby's birthday. Okay. Her birthday this was Monday. It was the previous Thursday. And I'm like, how did that happen? I know that I got a calendar reminder, but I probably was busy and I dismissed it. I guarantee I have a follow-up, because I literally have my employees in our CRM that I make notes, right? That this person is interested in this, and here's some of the stuff. So that when it comes around to that holiday again, we can talk about, I can get them a very personalized birthday present that they'll appreciate. And it's not just a gift card. There's some thought behind it. So I said, wow, I really effed this up. Okay. And I go into my notes and I'm like, okay, she likes like this stuff that I really don't understand, like Harry Potter stuff and blah, 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 ponies. Oh my God. She loves ponies. I'm going to buy her a pony because every girl loves ponies, right? So I was like, okay. So I get online, and she doesn't live here in Minnesota. She lives down in Tennessee, in like near Nashville.
Time out for a live pony.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
So I looked this up, and I looked up and I was like, wow, there's these like little miniature pony things, right? I don't really know much about horses or the difference between a horse or a pony, but I found online that they have like this pony that's about the size of a dog, but a little bit bigger, a big dog, you know? I said, boom, done. $600. I can buy that, right? So I called the farmer up and I said, hey, here's the deal. I need this now. I will pay you however you need to be paid, 600. And you said free delivery. And he said, absolutely. I hate this thing. I want to get rid of it. Okay. So I go to Walmart because I had to figure out how to wire money to a farmer in Tennessee. And so I pay the $600. I call him on the phone and he's like, yep, got it. On my way, dropping it off, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm the hero. Okay. You're the hero, right? If you were doing the same thing, you're like, I am giving her the best gift ever. The best gift ever. I bought her a freaking pony, right? So I'm waiting on that phone call to come in because that's my feel good moment. And about 2.5 hours later, the phone rings. And I answered the phone. Hey, Gabby, how you doing? And she said, you're pretty effing dense, dude. I'd never heard her swear until that moment. And I said, what are you talking about? She said, what did you think the number 4 meant when you gave that guy my address? I said, I don't have a clue. She said, I live in a 2nd floor apartment and I have a pony in my living room. And I don't know how you're going to get rid of this thing. And I do appreciate the effort, but you better get rid of this thing. It cost me $500 to rehome that pony on a $600 gift with good intentions, right?
I'm sorry. I'm just
effing dense, dude. What did the number 4 mean to you when you gave
Oh my God. So that was your best feel good moment.
Well, so that leads into, so for the next year after that, I said, okay, ponies don't work. So then I realized that everybody loved dogs, and I kind of started this internal love dogs, hate cats program within our company. And so I started everybody's birthday for the following year. Everybody got a puppy, and it was delivered to their door.
So I have puppies. They're 2 years old and they're still freaking puppies, and I love them. I could live a life without them right now because they cost me a lot of sleep. And so I think it's hilarious that you're like, hey, I'm going to give everybody puppies because I love it too. I'd go look for the free puppies and I'd be sending them free puppies, but now they got to pay for vet bills and they got to pay for food and they got to walk the dogs.
It's we have a lot of personal conversations, and one of the things that I realized in the digital world is that most people in the digital world are, if they're really good at digital, they're really bad at relationships. Okay, so when I actually looked at my workforce, I realized that roughly 3/4 of them, a little less than 3/4 of them, were all single, and I stopped hiring men. Right, this is terrible. I'll probably get a civil rights complaint or some good, I don't know, but I realized that men were really good at delegating everything. They were also really good at deflecting all of the responsibility, and my female employees were doing a much better job. And I said, I'm just going to simplify this. I'm not going to hire any more men. And it's not for any reason other than productivity and getting stuff done. So I looked at it, and all of a sudden I realized I'm on phone calls with my staff, and mostly women, 99.9% women now, and most of them are single. So I got them all puppies, and it worked, right?
Wow. That's awesome. See, and I love that you're like, you go the distance. I would go you know what? I'd love to buy them a puppy. And so mine would be, here's a check that should cover whatever breed of puppy you want, or whatever else you want to spend that money on. So I like that you even go the distance and get the damn dog, mailed to them or however you get it to them.
Well, and they would drop hints because as soon as the puppy thing started happening, all of their birthdays weren't at the same time. Oh, I got a puppy for my birthday, but I got a puppy too for my birthday, right? And then people who knew that their birthdays were coming up, they'd say, well, I'd kind of prefer this breed.
I'm curious if there's like now part of your interviewing questionnaire, dogs or cats? And they're like, cats, you're fired, kids. We don't do dogs here.
I don't know if I can reveal that information.
Yeah, I don't think by law you should probably ask that question.
We do narrow that down pretty hard. I mean, I actually had a civil rights complaint or whatever for not hiring men, and I don't care. I mean, I just one day got pissed off and realized that the women were carrying all the workload. The men were, there were a whole bunch of relationship issues that were happening in our workplace. And I was like, why are you guys having relationships? Yeah. Just do your work.
Yeah.
And
because we're lonely marketers, and what a dangerous cocktail right there.
So the best thing I ever did was I got rid of my office space. And then the second best thing that I ever did was I got rid of their emails. They don't have email addresses that they can talk to each other with, because I realized that they were finding ways to fight amongst themselves without ever even really knowing each other.
Wow.
And then I opened up all of our project management software so that every communication that happened on any project, the client was invited into their project management board. So wow. The employees had to communicate with the clients in a way that was, meaningful and respectful and everything else.
And with each other, right?
Yes.
Because the clients got to have visibility there. Man, do you mind my asking what are you using, like Trello, or are you using Slack, or?
Well, I hate Slack. Yeah. Probably one of the biggest issues when you have, I'd say more than probably 8 or 10 people, Slack becomes just a time drain. So I brought everything down to one, if you're an email person, right? So certain people do have an email because they're in key positions for me. Send me one email a day. Okay. At the end of the day, send me an email, and nothing is so important that you need to bother me in between the beginning of my day and the end of the day, because I'm going to take that list today that you gave me in an email, and I'm going to formulate my response and how we're going to go about tackling whatever that is. And nothing should ever be in a position to be a right now problem that has to be solved immediately. So in creating that process of forcing people to do once a day, Slack will drive you bonkers at 15 employees. And then, hey, by the way, your clients have Slack and you're getting everybody else on this. Hey, I really want to communicate right now and I want to solve all your problems right now. You can't organize that. So it goes back to herding cats. Yeah. So I got rid of the emails. I brought everybody into Trello, depending on the project. So we would use, I forget what it's called, Atlassian products. So there's Jira and Confluence, and I can't remember, Bamboo, I think, is the communication leg of that.
Yeah, Jira is the one that I'm familiar with from them.
So we would use the different channels, but I tell everybody, make your communication meaningful. Okay, don't just bother me with a text message. I hate text messages. I hate Facebook Instant Messenger. I hate Twitter. I hate all of these different platforms because they're selfish and they allow people to just bother you, right? And if you send me a text message or I send you a text message, I expect a fairly immediate response to that.
Yeah.
And nobody is that valuable.
Yeah. That's interesting.
and I never sit down to eat with my cell phone.
That's
My,
interesting.
my phone never goes into my bedroom. I
Nice.
don't care if it's an emergency. If God forbid my parents die, one of my parents dies tonight, they'll still be dead tomorrow morning.
That's true.
What
That's
am
true.
I going to do about it?
Yeah. And I won't rat out my fiance about her not only keeping her phone in the bedroom, but the ringer on.
Sure.
There's nothing better than 2 a.m. spam mail coming through, and there's the notification of congratulations, you won a $50 gift certificate to something stupid. So yeah, I mean, I love that because and it's true. We don't take responsibility for the control in our life. Mm-hmm. And those are things that you absolutely have every right and should be doing. It's kind of like unfollowing people that are negative on your Facebook feed. Just unfollow. You have control over it. Do it. If you care about yourself and you're living by your design, then why not do those things?
Sure.
It's funny to hear it though, because it's kind of like, oh my God, I can't even imagine not being able to email my team. And then you go, but it would be nice not to have to email anyone ever again.
Sure. Bradley's I can look at everything that happens between, for today, they're all going to send me an email at the end of their day. And then before my day is done tonight, they're going to have a response email, and my day for tomorrow is already set up. And they show up ready to work because here's how we're going to do this. Hey, I have a quick question. I made a very nasty statement at one point because when I got rid of my office space was expensive as shit. I mean,
I heard that and I went, what the hell?
It was ridiculous money. And I took that money, I fired everybody locally, and then I hired top talent from around the country and some in different countries. And I used that savings that I was paying every month to hire the best. So I made a statement, and this is somebody who doesn't work for me anymore because they would constantly, hey, I just want your thoughts on this. What did I hire you for? Make a decision. I didn't hire you. Well, what do you think the best way is to do this? What do you think the best way is to do this? Well, I think it should be done this way. Well, why didn't you do it that way? You know what I mean? We have a creative brief. We have all of these things in place. And probably the biggest hang up with why I hate managing people came from the fact that the client would say, this is exactly what we want. We would work with the client to say, this is exactly how we're going to, do this design from the design brief. Here's how we're going to set up marketing automation. Here's all of these things. And then I would have somebody say, well, I think that they should do it this way. And this is the work that I did. Well, great. Now that you're done working and you think you're done working for the day, you think I just paid you to do what you wanted and you didn't do what the client wanted. So before tomorrow morning's meeting, I don't care if you have to work all night. You'd better get it done the way their creative brief states, and it better be perfect. And don't you ever do that again. Or if you want to show them a different way to do it, show them their way for exactly what they ordered, and then maybe show them an alternative of how you think that might be able to be improved. But don't ever force me to walk into a meeting with a client who ordered something on a deadline that was meant to, and show up to that meeting with your version of what you think they want.
Yeah, it's that. I'm sure you've seen that cartoon picture of the what the project was asking for, and it's like a tire swing hanging off the tree. And then what they got is like this tricked out bench thing hanging off the tree with a TV and stereo and everything else. And it seems like that's how projects go because of people that, oh, I know better. Let me just do this thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, I totally get that. I'm sorry that happened in your group. We try to.
It happens all the time, right? And I think the newer employees, they'd say, well, you want to know what I think? And I'd say, no. Well, what do you mean? I don't care what you think. The only person that I care about what they think is the client. And that's all that matters. Well, I think, again, I don't care what you think. You are trading time and the value of that time for a paycheck to satisfy a client's needs. And if you cost that client relationship, you are costing your position with the company too, right?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely. Speaking of, so we're kind of talking about, if you're okay with me shifting gears a little bit. So we
yeah,
talked about sales a bit, and we talked about kind of client fulfillment and strategy, more so communications within the team.
mhm,
Uh, and I can throw this out here. I really don't care. So we use FreeCamp from a project perspective because there's a feature that I absolutely love, and that's the ability to export an entire I call it my master list. And then we'll load that back up per client. And then we go in and dissect pieces that we need. And we'll add pieces that we'll get rid of things we don't need and add things that we do need. And we sculpt out our campaign for that. That for me is massive because it creates our work plan moving forward. At any time a client can call us and go, hey, I just want to know what's going on. Typically we just have a monthly meeting and they know that we'll go over all of that. But if they want to, we literally open it up and show them exactly what we've been doing and where we're at. I'm kind of curious because we try to stay as much SEO related as possible.
mhm.
Just because we can do ads doesn't mean we're out pushing and selling them. Just because we can do email campaigns, build websites, all of that stuff. 9 times out of 10, what happens is it's this one resource that is really good at those things.
Mhm.
And so that's why we don't push for them, because we have a very formalized approach to our SEO.
Sure.
I'm kind of curious, and I think it's important, maybe I'm off, but if you don't mind, share with me a little bit about your systems. So we talked about the team communication, and you had mentioned Trello, and so Trello and the Atlassian product that you use. I'm kind of curious for you when you've pitched someone, so you visited with the prospect, they've shared what they think they need. You've listened to that and you've put together a nice package for them and proposed that to them, and they're absolutely stoked about it. And they say, yes, let's go.
Mhm.
Ours is very, very much the same. Great. We're going to send you a letter of agreement or a contract. We're going to send you a welcome letter that kind of gives you an idea what to expect moving forward with us. By the way, we also need you to come over here and give us as much information as we ask for, because now we can hit the ground running and take care of you.
Mhm.
And then we'll set up our monthly meetings and off we go. And there's an invoicing in there as well. I'm kind of curious, now that you have this bundle, how is everything for you on a custom solution, or do you have something in place on these different verticals that you offer that you kind of do like what we do, is you load it up and then we go in and we refine it to the client? What is that? Do you mind sharing what that looks like?
Yeah, well, so that's the magical question. Do I give a cookie cutter, good, better, best solution that you're going to pay $500 a month? And everybody's going to hate this answer. If you think that you're going to just make it a cookie cutter solution where somebody's buying into a SaaS model, you're not building any value. You're not building any personal value. And that's going to actually hold true at the point where the contract is expired and they're looking to renew that contract. So if you look at the drop rate of, I'm going to buy Verizon cell phone service, I may keep Verizon for 2 years, but I'm really not committed to them, because after all, I'm just getting price increases, I'm getting cell phone service, and I really don't see any difference between them and AT&T as an example. So at the end of that 2-year contractual period, I am going to shop them. The same holds true in our industry.
Right.
So do we do things and do we establish a time value? Absolutely. And it's all time. It's all based on how much do we, Atlassian products, we're using Confluence, which is a storage document area for, we're just piecing together all of these little pieces of, here's the final contract and here's what it looks like, multiply it by X factor, and this is the final cost. And there's a place to discount it or whatever that looks like, but I really don't discount much. in keeping everything into one area and making it palatable. Do it however. I'm not trying to push Atlassian products either, but it's nice because Atlassian owns Trello now. So now I can use all of their other little programs, and I can pull that information into all of these other things that I'm doing. And I can use Jira, and I can use all of their stuff depending on the project. That is a key. And I'm trying to ramp myself up in how to explain this. When you hire an attorney to get a divorce attorney, and they put a divorce agreement in front of you, and the two parties, they didn't just create that. They took a previous divorce agreement,
right,
which 90% of the way there, they added in all of the little bits and pieces of everything that they needed, and now pay us $5,000.
Right.
So there's an extreme value to creating that process, not just from the management side, but also from the asset side. So when we look at website design, we have hundreds of different website templates. And if we hadn't gone in and created, I push Divi. I've been with Divi for years. And the reason, other people say, well, I want to use Element, or I want to use Oxygen, I want to use all of these other things. Great. Go buy into that. But the reason why we made a switch to Divi is because we could export the JSON files. And then when we went in to do a web design project with somebody, we could pull up all the wireframes and bits and pieces from all of these different websites that we'd already done. And we have the wireframe together, and we could shorten the time frame, increase the productivity percentage, and the profitability. And most companies don't do that. So everything that I attack or I go after from a project standpoint or client work or whatever, I'm constantly putting the case studies together. I'm constantly putting all of that stuff together. And if I had to be honest, I would say that is probably the biggest mistake of our industry. And the ones who are successful do that, and the ones who don't generally fail because they're lazy. They're not putting in that extra work. Did I answer the question, or were you looking?
Yeah, I think you did. I think that I love it because I think it's super important. I mean, you've heard it a million times. I've heard it a million times. If you do something more than once, you need to make a process out of it, and you need to find a way to allocate a resource to it, allocate a price to it, put that on the shelf, and if you need to pull it out. I was just visiting with to go off to the side a little bit, but to also kind of point out how important this is to your bottom line. I was visiting with a general contractor last night, and it was a business meeting of some sort. We were having some drinks, and I said, hey, how's it going? I noticed that, and he's branching out. He's from Kansas City. He's doing some stuff over in South Carolina. And I went, what the hell's going on? I'm seeing a move happening there. Tell me what's up. And he said, well, I'm learning my business from the other end of it. And I'm doing that in South Carolina, and we're doing the front end of it. And he's talking about filing claims for, through your insurance company and things like that. So we're talking about that. I said, well, how are your sales here? Because you're the main guy. And I'm kind of curious, have you got your sales guys trained up? And he goes, well, here's the weirdest thing. My sales guys are really good at sales, but they're not really good at identifying everything that needs to be done, because if they did, they would realize how much money they're leaving on the table. And I went, well, elaborate on that a little bit for me. He goes, here, I'll give you an example. And he points over and he says, you see that table right there? And here's a table. People had sat there, and there's glasses, and there's trash, and there's napkins and silverware and all kinds of shit on this table. And he goes, if this company called me and they said, hey, we need you to remove this table, my sales guys would go in and they'd say, okay, that's going to be $500. Mm-hmm. One line item. He goes, I go in there and I go, well, let's see here. I'm going to charge you $5 to remove that fork, that fork, that fork, that fork. Those are each $5. And I'm charge you $10 there to remove that knife. And we charge you for this glasses, everything else. And he goes, so my guys charge $500. Here's my bill for $1,250. Mm-hmm. And because I'm identifying all of these things that really I'm going to do bit by bit by bit, mm-hmm. they're willing to pay it. They just need to explain to them. And I went, wow, that's really fascinating, because now we're talking about if I went out and I and I took apart the things that we do in an SEO campaign, and we put a dollar sign to it, and we put our resources to it, and we started pulling that apart. Wow, one, we're not charging enough by any means. Mm-hmm. And two, we may be on the wrong kind of client. Mm-hmm. Because they don't even realize all of this magic that's happening for them. Now we've done a good job since like realizing this, and we're going around now and we're adding in better UTM source codes and better tracking, like event tracking on the website and things like that. So we're really trying to identify, well, okay, we just kind of do these things because it works. Mm-hmm. We think. So let's really track this and let's really nail down the numbers. Now, if I itemize this for clients and I go, well, here's your investment level. Whoa, what the hell? Well, let's break this down. And here's what it looks like from a use case. As you were mentioning, everyone should be doing this. Here's a use case for someone in a similar industry as yours. Mm-hmm. Here's why we do these things. Mm-hmm. So I absolutely love that. I don't know. It's weird because we do these things. We think about systems and processes and resources and all of this. How many people in our industry are just kind of like, oh yeah, I'm your SEO expert. I'm going to knock this out for you. Can literally like break it down and articulate it month by month for their clientele.
I brought up, I have like a mentor group, right? Of people that I've created. And I want to touch on two things because these people, these mentors to me, I don't use my mentor group or my inner circle or whatever you want to call these people the way that most people use them, because business owners tend to be very, I don't want to use the word weak, but timid. They always want to put on their best face. They want to always show that even to their mentors. And then they think that they want to engage on their best sides to make themselves better without addressing any of the bad.
Do you want to talk about the bad?
So I made a decision with my mentors that I was never going to share the good, because the only way that I could actually improve was to go after the bad. And these are executives for Medtronic and some of the largest companies in the world that are personal friends of mine that, I reach out to them and I say, hey, I did something really stupid. Now let's talk about it. And they're like, have you ever done that? Nobody does that. But I finally looked in the mirror and I said, I'm not as good as I think I am. I'm not as good as I'm pretending to be. But one of the lessons, and I'm bringing this around full circle. So the second part of this, I was talking to one of the mentors. He works at United Health Group. I mean, he's a bigwig over there. And I said, hey, I really think I suck at this, right? And I'm having a really hard time gaining buy-in. And this guy is like he's my Zen. If I'm losing my mind, he's the guy I call, and he knows how to just make everything okay. So he said, sounds like, you need to research John Wooten. That was his response. Do you know who John Wooten is?
Wasn't he a basketball coach? Was he a college coach?
Yeah.
Okay.
College basketball coach, one of the winningest college basketball coaches ever in history. In the very first practice, because he said, that's your fault. You're not managing properly. And if you're not setting your clear expectations, the only person to blame is you. And, this was my mentor coming back to me. And he said, you need to look up John Wooten and then get back to me, because I'm not even having this discussion with you right now. And I was like, wow. So I started reading about John Wooten and I was amazed. John Wooten, the very first practice every year, didn't matter if you were there for the first time for the first practice ever on that team. His first practice every year was, this is how you tie your shoes. And he didn't make any assumptions that people knew how to do that. And they would come back and, this is how you dribble a basketball. Well, I've dribbled a basketball, but you didn't dribble a basketball my way. Because he realized that if he didn't teach everybody these fundamentals, and it didn't matter what they knew coming in, but if he didn't teach them what his expectations were, down to the most basic level, any failure that happened was his fault. And I think we take that for granted. This is how you tie your shoes.
Yeah.
Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar played for John Wooten, and every year he realized his discipline required him to show up for the first practice, because John Wooten said, if you don't show up for any practice, you don't get to play. He didn't care what your excuses were. Now, somehow that's transitioned to me being the bad guy in today's corporate world, right? Because I'm not building this Care Bear hug campaign. Everybody gets a hug. And I mean, I give them puppies, for crying out loud, but I'm also hard on them. You know, when it goes back to the salespeople, if they're not telling your prospective client exactly what you want them to hear, it's your fault.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, it all boils down to what we're doing, you and I, right? What we're either doing or not doing in our businesses. Absolutely. Back to, I hope anybody watching this realizes you don't figure this shit out in 2 days.
Sure.
Right? To be successful. These are lessons. There was somebody here recently, they had said something, and I went, oh, the way I say it is this: you're not entitled to the next lesson until you learn this lesson. And it's the same in business. You're not entitled to more people investing in you or you getting better at what you do until you learn the lessons that are in front of you. Right now, mine's sales. The moment I crack the nut on sales and I get beyond myself, I absolutely, by the way, I do love that you have a mentorship circle and you're willing to throw yourself out there, because everybody wants to just say, dude, we rock. Like, I want to say we rock. I feel like a fucking failure. We're 4 years into it. I'm nowhere where I want us to be from a revenue perspective. That is on me. There's no excuse for it. I'm just lazy, or I'm not efficient, right? And I also haven't but I haven't really kept it a priority. It's totally on me.
But let's go back to the original thing when you said, how do I get away from being the sales guy? And I said, you don't. You're your brand, right? You're the brand of your company. Exactly. And I'm not going to give this person's name, but I had somebody reach out to me, and he's like, I just, COVID hit me hard, and I'm just not where I want to be. And I lost some clients and all this other stuff. And he came to me and I said, are you asking me to give you a hug? Because I'm not a hug guy. Right? I said, I don't really understand where you're trying to go with it, but I said, go get a customer tomorrow. Go get a client tomorrow. Well, how do I do that? I said, well, the same way you do anything else. I said, you're going to wake up. You're going to take a shower, hopefully. You're going to brush your teeth. You're going to get dressed. And then you're going to identify somebody. And he's like, well, I make phone calls and, people aren't even answering the phones. I said, then show up. Just show up. And one of the most successful stories that I can tell you that isn't even marketing related actually came from a client who I love this guy to death, because he actually, in reading he came to me as a prospective client. I spied on him and researched the crap out of him and learned why I should admire the guy before I ever had a second meeting with him. Okay. This guy literally went to work he got out of college. He got a degree in marketing, and I think a doubled up in marketing and finance. And then he went to go work for not at the time, it was one of the bigger Taco Bell franchise chains that had multiple locations. So he showed up and he put in his application, or whatever, to go work for him. And they didn't hire him. They hired somebody with more experience. Well, he found out that he didn't get the job, but then he just showed up. He showed up on Monday and he was wearing a suit, and they said, what are you doing? He said, I'm going to work for you for free until I prove to you that I can be an asset. And, I really need this. Okay. And he did. And for like 2 weeks, he showed up every day. And he's like, what can I help you with? I'm here to help. I'm here to do all this other stuff. None of this happens in today's world. Right. And I'm talking about, he's got to be, he's probably about 15 years older than me. So this is years ago. So he shows up, and then finally they said, hey, we already hired somebody for this position. And he said, but I really need a job, and I'll do whatever it takes. I will show you how good I am. I will show you why you need me. So they actually gave him their worst performing Taco Bell restaurant, and they made him the manager of that restaurant. And they gave him an unbelievable task. And they said, if you can take the worst performing restaurant in our group and make that top 10%, because it's in a traffic area where it should be doing better, that's how you prove yourself to us. So he did over, I think it was 6 or 8 months, took him from the worst to not first, but top 5 or whatever it was. And then in that time frame, they had fired the guy that they originally hired in place of him. So they said, well, find a replacement, get somebody trained up. And he said, I've already done that, etc. Moves into that marketing position. And today he's the VP, executive vice president for marketing and finance for Border Foods.
Wow.
Okay, but he did it. And then he also has this other business, and we took on that business, and it's a great business. But I mean, nobody does that anymore.
No, they don't. They don't.
Except
I'm hard pressed to think that I would do that. But all you're demonstrating is that, hey, I said I want this, and I'm showing you I want it. I don't need your permission to show up and show you what I want. I'm doing what I told you I wanted to do.
So going back to the guy that said, oh, I lost all these other things and blah, blah, blah. And I told him I'm not a hug guy. I said, hey, you know what, dude? That's your fault.
Yeah.
Well, I need to go get a new client. I said, then go get one.
Yeah.
Who should I go after? I said, any at this point.
The ones that will pay, that need you. Oh.
He thought I was being insulting, but finally, and he started to get really defensive. I said, look, dude, nothing is going to happen until you pull the trigger and make a decision that you're going to get a new customer tomorrow. And today, you better be figuring out who you're going to go after. And I don't care who it is. Well, what should I say? Tell them you need work. Like, I mean, imagine that. You walk in and you say, hey, I'd like to meet with so-and-so. What are you talking about? I need work. Well, what do? I do all kinds of things. And I'd love to have a discussion with that person, because you're generally going to get the wedge or the receptionist or whatever.
Right.
But don't take no for an answer.
Oh.
Say, I want 5 minutes of this person's time. Right? Well, they're in a meeting right now. Great, I'll wait. What else are you going to do? You don't have any clients.
Exactly. Exactly.
I'm just going to sit over here, and maybe I'll catch that person at the end of the day on the way out. Right? What color is that person's tie today? You know what I mean? Or what color dress? Or, I'm not trying to make it man versus woman thing, but golly, everybody just sits around and says, woe is me.
Yeah. I
wish I had more clients. Well, go get them.
I forget who the guy was. He was partners with Grant Cardone. He's doing his own thing. He does. I feel bad. I forget his name. He's such a cool guy. He does VT or virtual training. They refer virtual training. Bradley, yeah.
Yeah.
He says, and I love it. And it's very much in tune with what you're talking about. He says, I don't know, let's say you have $0 in your wallet and you go talk to someone and try to sell and you fail. How much money do you have it's the same amounts.
Sure.
Why not try to put some money in your wallet? I mean, it's not like you go in and they go, no, we're not interested. And now you've got to come up with $100, and pay them for the no. You're not losing anything except for your time.
Sure. And being upfront, because when you're hungry, and people appreciate hungry, you know what I mean? If I can't tell you how many times people are standing in front of me and they're like, well, if you hire us, we're going to do things gooder than the next.
Oh,
we do. What do you do? We do marketing. I got news for you. There's 6 million companies in the United States, and I'm pretty sure 2 million of them are marketing companies. Yeah. So you better come at me with something other than you're a reseller of HubSpot products, because I can buy HubSpot on my own, right? Give me something, give me anything. How are you going to do this? And I really tear into people, but when they come to me and they're like, hey, I just really want you to take responsibility as to whether I succeed or fail tomorrow. No, bud. No, it doesn't work that way. Because you want to be an agency owner. You better start taking responsibility. You better spray on some thick skin every morning. You better realize that you have two choices every day when you wake up. When you look in the mirror for the first time, it's going to be failure or success. And there's no in between. You're either going to, how did you do yesterday? Now, honestly, if I asked you, how did you do yesterday? Did you succeed or fail? What would your answer be?
Actually, I succeeded as far as what I had in front of me for the day.
Nothing else matters. It's just rating yourself of success or failure.
The ones that suck is if you ask, tomorrow on a Saturday, when I know it's tougher to make a sale, or I know it's tougher to reach out to people because it's Saturday, I'm going to do the work. But you ask me the same question, I'm going to go, no, it sucked. And that's, I showed up, but it is what it is, and it just sucked. And you just keep trying.
How do you change that?
Exactly. How do you fix that? And I don't know, maybe it's and this is the dumbest thing. Let me ask you this. You set these amazing goals Monday through Friday, and you succeed, you fail, you succeed, you fail, you succeed, you fail. You run into Saturday, Sunday, completely different playing field. And this isn't an excuse. So just people are off the 9-to-5 schedule and they're into their weekend and their personal time and their family. Do you adjust your goals to meet the environment? Do you double down on your goals so that you can potentially, do you work twice as hard on a Saturday and Sunday?
Are your goals realistic for the day?
Right. And I think too that, and now you will disagree with me on this because you're a maniac, and I mean that respectfully, but I require downtime. The brain needs gray matter repaired or whatever the hell it is. I can't do the 4 hours like you can. It just, give me twice as much and I'm feeling good.
Sure.
And so we're not all the same. We're all different. Is it more important for my health to identify just the fact that, Saturday, it's more debilitating to me to double down on my work and get absolutely zero. And then I kick my ass all day Sunday and I'm pissed off and I'm defeated before I even get into Monday? Or is it better to do some house cleaning, work on the business on Saturday? The goals are different. It's not an external facing, it's all internal facing. And I can start Monday with some wins and some closures to maybe last week.
Mm-hmm.
And so
so you said work on the business. So you're still working, right? So
still working. It's just shifting the goals over to, you still need it. There's work you got to do on the business. There's work you have to do in the business. Mm-hmm. It's an ongoing, in my mind, it's an always ongoing process.
So I'll share this with you, and I'm telling on myself is that my worst interruption is my family. And my family, one, I do a lot of web design on the weekends because I enjoy it. And I'm working on little projects here and projects there. And I want to make some, the fortune cookie website just because, right? And little things like that. And it's not a sales pitch, but I do that on the weekends. And then my interruption is my family. So I have to, and my son's grown. And when I'm talking about family, I'm talking about, my mom, my dad, my whoever that they feel that is their time. So I try and reorganize my efforts. And when I tell everybody I work all the time, I do work all the time. But I don't necessarily work. Ooh, you're getting Snorty Magoo.
I saw that. Awesome.
Yeah. He's a 13-and-a-half-year-old coonhound.
Oh.
We're gonna have to cut this short in a minute because but I rearrange my schedule to make sure that the targets that I'm trying to go after, it makes sense from a time frame standpoint. And not just people targets, but work product targets.
Right.
So I'm doing my web design after everybody's asleep or on the weekends or whatever that looks like. And sometimes I'm doing it during the day. I'm dealing with clients. I'm answering emails at night. That is a huge nugget. I answer all my emails at night And then I don't answer or even look at emails until the next night.
Wow. So let me ask you this. Did you have to build into that? Because we have clients, we have friends that they're used to, hey, I'll just send an email and I'll get a reply in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So you have to
I have an auto reply that actually explains that I'm currently working on valuable client projects such as yourself. And I will get back to this email. And I literally don't even get email notifications anymore. They get an auto notification response. And then at the end of my day, with my normal business day, so in about 2 hours, I'll look at all my emails. And then I'll reply to all of those emails, and I'll reply to everything that's going on, and then I'm done. And it's set it and forget it.
I like it.
When I started doing that, I had a whole bunch of people freak out. Well, I need stuff right now. Well, guess what? It's not going to happen. It just isn't going to happen. And if I tried to do that for you, I wouldn't do it well anyways. So let's just be honest with each other that an emergency, what is it? Piss poor planning on your part never constitutes an emergency on mine.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And yeah, I got to cut this short, man, because Snorty McGee, can you say hi? We're going to add you into the show, Monkey.
Oh, he's so awesome.
He's a 13-and-a-half-year-old dog whose species is only supposed to live 11 years. So when he when he needs something, we have to
absolutely.
He's excited, which means he either has to go OUT right now.
Yep.
Or he might not make it there.
I got you. Well, Bradley, thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun. I think we could probably talk another 2 hours or more. There's just so much that I'd love to pick your brain sometime about some other stuff too, if you're open to it. It doesn't have to be on a video or anything like that, but
let's do it again. Let's do it again. I love talking about how to do things better than I've done them, right? I love to talk about, let's address issues that other people are having, and how would we do things differently? Because I think our industry really wants that.
Oh, I think so too. I think, and too, I mean, I'm getting ready to go on another tear about it, so I'll stop there. But yeah, thank you. I agree. Thank you so much.
Let's do it again.
It's been fun. Absolutely.
Say hi. What? Say. We'll get him. You ever heard of Coonhound Howl?
Only in the movies. So is it pretty impressive?
What? Tell him. What? Oh, we're about to get the other one. What? Monkey. He's not gonna do it. He's old. That's the little one. That's mine.
It's kind of like the car that has the problem. You take it to the mechanic and you're like, "Do you hear it?" And they're like, "No." And you're like, "Damn it, I don't hear it either."
We'll get it on the next one. I appreciate having you, man. I got to take these guys out apparently.
Yes, sir. All right. Thank you so much, Bradley.
Let's do it again soon.
All right. Sounds good. See ya.